Hello there, everyone. How you doing today? I hope you're all well. Today we're going into r/Let's Not Meet, where people share their potentially deadly encounters with strangers. If you enjoy, like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Hit that notification bell and check out my links in the description. Now, without further ado, let's get started, shall we? Clown in the Woods. I'm from the UK, if that's any context. So, way back in 2016, when the whole killer clown epidemic was huge, I was walking through the woods at around 10 p.m. alone in order to get to a party or gathering that was happening in a secluded part of the forest. It was almost pitch black and I could barely see in front of me, besides the flash on my phone, and everything seemed normal as I walked to the party. I got to a long stretch of the woods with no defined path, but it was the quickest way to the party, so I took it. As I got around midway, though, I heard something to my left. I turned and saw a shadowy figure sat on a fallen log. I was understandably unnerved, but I couldn't make it out if it was just shadows from the moonlight or if it was an actual person. I made the mistake of shining my phone light directly at it, and I was instantly terrified. Sat there, alone in the middle of the woods, was a largish man dressed as a clown with full face paint and sporting the creepiest smile imaginable. I tried to call 5 different people as I was passing him, and then I heard him get up behind me. I instantly started sprinting towards the end of the long stretch onto a path which had barbed wire, a fence down the side of it. During the sprint, I was pretending to be onto a path on a phone with one of my friends, and I could hear him running after me, but there was no chance in hell I'd be turning around to see if I was right. When I got to the path, I jumped over the fence as fast as I could. I sliced my hands open as I did so. I then turned around and kept running backwards as I saw the clown stood behind the fence, just staring and smiling. I didn't stop running until I got to the party, and I was scared for a very long time after this. You have to bear in mind that there were so many rumors of people being killed by people dressed as clowns at the time, and while I'll never know if the man had evil intentions or was just trying to scare me, it was extremely strange and scary to live through. So, in conclusion, Killer Clown Man from the Woods. Let's not meet. The would-be school shooter. During my sophomore year in high school, I was unfortunately involved in a school shooting. It happened during lunchtime, and I'll never forget the chaos that unfolded in front of me. Right before the bell rang, I heard what sounded like someone slamming lockers as hard as they could. The noise echoing through the halls, and before anyone could think, a kid ran down the hall screaming, "He has a gun!" Now, mind you, it was close to the end of the year, so sadly a lot of us thought it was a screwed up senior prank. The reason I say this is because over the past few months we had kids apparently posting on Facebook that they were going to shoot up the school. Therefore, we had police officers in our classrooms guarding us non-stop through the second semester. So when it actually happened, we didn't know if it was real or fake. Our security guard, who was previously a sniper in the military, ran down the hallway to see what was happening. Not even a minute later, he comes running back, telling us to run. And that we did. Kids were jumping over tables, they were jumping over each other, and teachers were trying to pull kids into their classrooms. All hell broke loose the moment we realized this meant life or death. And all I could think about was, where's my sister? She had left for the bathroom moments before the first shots rang out, and I remember not knowing what to do. Do I find her or do I hide because the gunman was coming right for me? So I ran, as fast as I could, up the stairs and into my fourth period class. The teacher had sent a student out to see what was going on, and I rushed us both inside, telling him to lock the door. I remember everyone was staring at me like, "What's going on? Are you okay?" And that's when the principal got on his intercom, and I'll never forget what he said. "This is a code red. Hide your students. I repeat, this is not a drill. Hide your fucking students." I didn't even have to say a word. The senior class I ran into took action. They barricaded the door with desks and chairs after pulling in as many students as they could. The teacher told us to turn off all of our phone sounds, but to text our parents, which I did. My mom so happened to be right around the corner from the school. She raced over despite me telling her it wasn't safe. I felt like I could have gotten my mom off that day, and I still regret it, though she remained safe. A lot after that is a blur. I remember my sister texting me that she was safe, but the gunman was trying to get into their classroom. I remember hearing the SWAT team clearing the hallways and hearing on one of the radios that there was multiple subjects, but none could be found. I remember seeing on multiple Snapchats teachers next to doors, ready to take action. Some had scissors, others had bats, and another showed students taking off their shoes, ready to attack whoever entered without permission. Though, being slightly wholesome, a school of people should never have to defend themselves against angry classmates with guns. That was something that should have never happened, especially on a day our guard was down. Long story short, we were in lockdown from 1:45 p.m. to 10 p.m. that night. The shooters were never found as far as I know, and nobody was fatally injured, thank God. Walking out, though, to see food and paper scattering the hallways was rough. We have our hands up in the air as we left the school, and before going outside, we're all patted down to make sure we didn't have any weapons. My parents hugging me harder than before, and me just being happy we all walked out to see another day. I dropped out of high school shortly after that, and my parents back to my hometown 5 states away. I lived with my brother for a bit until I got my own place, and that's when I met Devin. He was like 3 years older than me, and I never realized that he was my first grade crush's older brother. But there we were. He was pretty good friends with my brother and would hang out when we'd have kickbacks. Can't say he was a bad guy from what I saw, and never had beef with anyone. Super laid back, stoner type guy. He was really cool, until we all got drunk one night and it slipped that he almost shot up his high school. Now, everyone there pretty much knew about him, but played it off well. He didn't actually do it, so... Even my brother did. I was disgusted when I told them what happened to me, and they practically dropped him from the friend group pretty fast. It's just sad that it took me telling them that I was actually involved in one to no longer be friends with him. Like, people, you shouldn't have been friends with him to begin with. What the frick? Anyway, so I moved again and no longer talked to any of those friends, including my brother, and that's something I'm not sorry for. It's been almost 10 years and I'm slowly moving on. I just wish the trend of validating other people's bad behavior would stop. It's not a game, and if you ever feel the need to take these drastic actions, please don't. It's not worth ruining your life and others. You have a chance to make things right, so please do it. Thank you for taking the time to read this, and Devin, I'm more than okay never meeting you again. My screaming may have saved my life. Some context first. This story took place in 2020 when I was 18 years old. I lived in a relatively safe neighborhood, but my country does have a high crime rate in general, so take that with a pinch of salt. My dad had passed away earlier in the year, and I had no siblings, so my mom and I lived alone in our house. The COVID lockdowns were still in place, but as certain restrictions were lifted, people were starting to return to work. Between my house and the train tracks was a stretch of empty field. It became a safe, quiet space for me to escape whenever I needed to get out of my house. I would normally sit there once a day for a cigarette or two, sometimes for a little picnic. My home situation was complicated, to say the least, and due to the pandemic, I had nowhere else to go. On this particular day, I went there for a few minutes to smoke, as always. I was about halfway through my cigarette when I noticed the young man walking along the train tracks on the other side of the field. He was barefoot and wearing dirty, worn-out clothes. He noticed me and made a hand gesture suggesting he was asking for a smoke. I should have just left, but as a teenager I found it difficult to say no to people. I walked across the field and handed him a smoke. He took it from me, and I immediately felt uneasy with the way he was looking at me. He asked me, "Don't you live in that house over there?" and pointed at my house. I avoided answering the question, and at this point realized I needed to leave. I had left from my front gate that day. For him to know where I lived meant he must have watched me leave from the back gate before. I told him I needed to get going. He started insisting on giving me a hug to say thank you, and I declined several times. At this point, I turned around and started walking away quickly. I didn't get very far. He caught up to me and put his arm around my waist. I panicked, not knowing what to do. All I could think of was that I needed to get away. As I tried to start running, he grabbed me from behind and started dragging me towards the row of houses where the view from the road is completely blocked. The fences were high too, so no one could see the field from their backyards. We were completely isolated. I was kicking and struggling, desperate to get out of his grasp. He ended up throwing me on the ground with him on top of me, still holding on. In a split second, my life flashed before my eyes. That feeling that something terrible was about to happen came over me. I couldn't escape. He was too strong. My arms were trapped by his, and he was holding me down so I couldn't kick him. I did the only thing left I could do and started screaming for help. Suddenly, I was free. I could move. He had let go and jumped off of me, and he ran away. My heart was still pounding. I was shaking, in shock from what had just happened. He disappeared into the industrial areas on the other side of the train tracks. I immediately ran towards the road, and as I reached it, I noticed it was empty. There were no cars parked in my neighbor's driveways. No one heard me screaming, and had he realized, that day could have had a far worse ending. He knew where I lived, and I was terrified of him returning. For months I had panic attacks and nightmares, and I could barely leave my house without breaking down. I moved away from there a year later, but I still sometimes get scared when I'm home alone or walking around town. Thankfully, I never saw him again, and I hope that I never will. That's the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed. Remember to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and leave a comment down below. I will see you all next time. Maybe check out my other social media in the description. I'm not your dad. I can't tell you what to do, but it'd mean a lot. See you later.